Chapter 12. Chunf. "We believe you should leave now," said Raksha after the service. His shoulders were slumped and his head hung low. He looked far less imposing than when Glyssa had first met him at the gates. But that was a lifetime ago. In the ritual of fire held in the courtyard, they had offered the body of Rishan and the warriors who had died that morning to the yellow moon. The Leonin howled while the bodies turned to ash. But the sound was not jubilant like the moon ritual the day before. These were wails of sorrow. Glyssa, Slobad, and the golem stood in the burnt-out passage, well away from the throng of Leonin crowded at the statue of Dekhan and the ever-burning flame. "I think you are right," said Glyssa. The car's eyes looked vacant, as if he were lost and looking for his way home. She was surprised he hadn't tossed them out the gate already. "I am sorry for your loss." There was more she wanted to say, but she knew none of it would matter. "Farewell, Glyssa," Raksha said. "You will always be welcome here." Glyssa hesitated a moment, then hugged the large Leonin. Raksha stood impassive. Glyssa's tears welled up again. "I shall not return," she said. "Not until the danger that follows me is gone. Not until I have found the one responsible for Rishan's death and made him pay." Ushanti emerged from behind the car.
"You are the one responsible, elf,"
screamed the seer. She glared at Glyssa with a rage the elf had never seen in anyone's eyes.
"You killed my daughter, just as you will kill us all."
She slapped Glyssa across the face. Blood streamed from a long gash on the elf's cheek, mixing with her tears. Shanti raised her arm again, and Glyssa saw blood dripping down from the old seer's claws. Ushanti's claws stopped an inch away from Glyssa's gut. Raksha held the seer's wrist and pushed her gently away from Glyssa into the arms of a warrior. "No," he said. "No more bloodshed." Ushanti struggled against the grip of the warrior.
You would welcome this elf back into your house? Death follows her like a plague. You'll see. You will all see."
"We are the car here, Ushanti," growled Raksha. "You would do well to remember that." He motioned to the warrior holding Ushanti, and the Leonin pulled the old seer back into her quarters. "Don't blame her," said Glyssa. She wiped the blood and tears from her cheek. "She has every right to hate me." She looked at Slobad and the golem. We should leave. I'm sorry." She wiped her tears and crossed the courtyard. Slobad followed with the golem. Neither spoke until they were out of sight of Taj Nar.
"Where do we go from here, huh?"
"I don't know," replied Glyssa glumly. She had been walking aimlessly since they left. She had no idea if she was headed towards the Mephidros, Slobad's old lair, or somewhere else entirely. The serum is our only link to the robed figure, but Ushanti won't help us with that now. I don't blame her, but we need to know where the serum came from.
"Krark have secret place, huh? We stay with them while I fix a golem. Fix the golem and he tell us what Memnock means. Maybe Memnock makes serum, huh? We find Memnock, he tells us who the robed figure is, huh? Maybe Memnock is the robed figure."
"Maybe Memnock is the golem's name, or a pet he used to play with," said Glyssa sourly. They walked in silence. She stopped at the edge of a field of razor grass and glanced back at the goblin. He was perched on the golem's shoulder, staring at the ground. "Do you think you can get him to talk?" she asked, gesturing towards the golem.
"Just needs a good cleaning."
Glyssa thought for a moment. "So, what do you need? Just some time to clean him?"
Dross muck up everything inside, huh? I think golem actually fixing himself when we rest. Pots I clean fix themselves."
He started to brighten.
"Amazing, huh? Slobad never seen a machine like it. Fixes itself, just can't clean itself. Dumb, huh? But smart, too."
"You need time to clean." Slobad nodded. "Somewhere safe from the Nim, the Levelers, and the globe-headed birds?" Slowbad nodded again. And I need answers from someone who knows as much about the world as Ushanti. Slowbad started to nod, then cocked his head and looked at Glisser. You know a place, huh? Glisser nodded. Tel Jalad, the Tree of Tales. It's impregnable. No lover has ever entered, and many have tried. There are only 2 entrances, one is heavily guarded, and the other is a secret only known by trolls, and me. Besides, it's time Chump told me everything he knows about this destiny he's thrust onto me. Glisser almost smiled as she climbed into the golem's broad hands. Slowbad, she said, I'm going home. It took them almost 3 rotations to get to the edge of the tangle. Shortly after Slowbad turned the golem around to head towards the tangle, Glisser spotted silver specks circling in the sky ahead of them. We have trouble. They looking for us, huh? Said Slowbad. Bad if they find us. Very bad, huh? We need to hide, said the elf. I don't know if they're looking for us, but we can't fight or outrun them here. It's too flat and open. Slowbad guided the golem back over a small hill. Glisser and the goblin slid down onto the ground and lay flat against the bare metal hill. The golem dropped to the ground beside them. Glisser peeked over the hill and watched the silver flyers. They did seem to be searching for something, snaking their way back and forth through the sky. Their flight was bringing the flock closer towards the travellers. Glisser turned to Slowbad. They're coming closer. Slowbad pointed down the hill. Follow Slowbad, huh? He said. We hide in old Leonin lair. The goblin began to crawl, followed by the golem. Glisser glanced back at the flyers again, then scrambled down the hill. They backtracked across the roiling terrain, keeping low on the ground and skirting hills until they came to a mound Glisser recognized as the Leonin den. It looked like all the others she had seen. A rounded mouth of metal, topped by a patch of razor grass that protected the opening. How do you know it's abandoned? She asked. It looked like all the other lairs we've seen, and we've never seen any other Leonin when we pass anyway. Rows of grass overgrown on top, huh? Said Slowbad. Crazy elf not see that? Glisser looked at the patch of sharp blades on the top of the mound. It looked like all the others to her. She shrugged and followed Slowbad up the slope. At the top, she glanced around to find the silver birds. They were still making their way methodically across the sky. Glisser pulled out her sword and cut a path through the grazer grass. No straight lines, huh? Leonin cut narrow paths through grass. Hard for enemies to attack. Look natural. Glisser nodded. A wide swath through the grass would surely draw the attention of their pursuers. She began to cut a narrow, winding path through the grass towards the gash in the top of the hill that was the lair's entrance. It was slow work, and she did not have time to be careful. She cut her leg several times when razor blades fell in her path as she moved forward. The party finally came to the entrance and climbed down into the lair. It did not gleam like Taj Nahad, but Glisser could see remnants of past splendor. The floor bore an inlaid pattern of a Leonin sun, and the large table in the corner appeared to be made of gold. Most of the other furnishings had been removed, but there was a large fire pit beneath the opening with an odd 6-legged spit standing over it. The spit didn't look strong enough to hold a pot. Mirror holder, huh? Said Slowbad, pointing up at the spit. Leonins put mirrors over spit when sun up in sky. Lights up lair. Mirrors come off under sundown, huh? Light fire to keep dark away at night. They like dark less than you, huh? Well, we need the dark now, Glisser grunted. We'll stay here tonight and travel at night. I just hope those flying horrors can't see in the dark any more than I can. Slowbad nodded. For several rotations they made their way across the glimmer void under the stars, resting in abandoned lairs while the moons were up. Each morning and evening Glisser looked for the globe-headed birds. They circled the sky, snaking their way across the glimmer void, searching. As the travellers grew closer to the tangle, however, they left the 4 moons and the birds behind. Glisser, Slowbad and the golem entered the tangle, well after the last moon set on the 4th rotation. They had walked most of the afternoon. Glisser was glad for the night. They would need the cover of darkness to smuggle the golem through the tangle. Can he climb? She asked.
You know as much about the golem as me, huh? Said Slowbad. He do many things. Maybe he can climb too.
Glissa stared at the goblin and pointed to the tangle tree beside them.
Okay, I ask him. Take it easy, huh?
From his perch on the metal man's shoulders, Slowbad pointed to a tree and said,
Golem, climb!
The golem reached forward and grabbed the metal trunk. Spikes sprang out at his fingertips and feet, and he moved up the tree. He was almost as fast as the levelers, even with Slowbad on his back. The goblin clung tightly as the giant steadily mounted the tree. He eventually slung his pack over the golem's head and slipped his torso under the strap. Gussie used the holes left behind by the golem's passing to climb up behind the odd-looking duo. Once in the trees, the elf led Slowbad and the golem through the heights of the tangle. She used unfamiliar routes since she was unsure whether the narrower spires could handle the golem's weight. As well, she wanted to avoid terraces where elves tended to congregate after an evening meal. The result was that a trip that would normally have taken her an hour occupied most of the night. As the sky began to brighten, she saw a patrol of Tel Jalad Chosen pass beneath them. She ducked into the nearest opening and froze. She had come home. The debris had been cleared, including the remains of the levelers she had destroyed. Glissa could see the dark stains on the floor. She breathed hard and fell back against the wall behind her.
You okay, huh?
The golem crawled through the entrance, and Slowbad slipped off his back.
Out of breath? Wanna ride golem? Slowbad thinks he can hold both of us, huh?
Check to see if the patrol has gone by yet. I'll be okay. Glissa closed her eyes and tried to keep the demons from her head. She was still panting when Slowbad came back.
All clear, huh? See no one in tree or below. You okay? We go now, huh?
Glissa took a deep breath and blew it out slowly. She nodded and moved to the door, keeping her eyes shut until she felt the cool air of the tangle on her face. They didn't see anyone else the rest of the way to the Tree of Tales. By the time they reached the terrace above the secret entrance, the moons were cresting above the horizon. Down here, said the elf. We're almost there. Any sign of our robed friend or his flying spies?
Slowbad not seen anything but blasted light fruit since we come through here. Why live in such a dark wood, then light it up with crazy fruit, huh? No wonder elves can't see in the dark.
Glissa chuckled. I know you're tired, Slowbad, she said. I promise you a hard bed in a nice dark room is just beyond this terrace. She jumped down from the terrace that held so many memories for her and jogged over to the trunk. The Vorak horn was still lodged in the knothole. The golem dropped to the terrace behind Glissa as she felt around for the catch within the knothole. After a few minutes she heard a metallic click, and then a grinding sound as a door opened. She slipped inside to the landing and waved Slowbad after. The goblin dropped off the back of his metal friend and led the golem through the door. It was a tight fit, but after some jostling, the golem crawled through the doorway. Glissa released the catch and the door slid closed behind them. Stay here, she said. I don't want to give the old troll a seizure. She bounded up the tunnel to the chamber outside Chump's bedroom. She was about to knock on the wall that hid his room, when behind her came shouts of trolls, and the unmistakable sound of Slowbad's fire tube igniting. She heard the metallic scrape of weapons being drawn. Glissa turned back towards Chump's door, but it was already open. Good morning, Chump, she said, as the stooped figure of the troll appeared in the doorway. I've returned.
In the same way you left, I see,
said the old troll, gazing down the tunnel.
Do come in, we have much to discuss, and every day the convergence comes that much closer.
I brought friends, said Glissa, pointing down the steps. I don't want them harmed.
It will sort itself out, young one, he chuckled. I will send word to put your friends in the guest quarters.
He moved as if to put an arm around her shoulders. Hold on there, old one. She evaded his embrace. You don't get to play the doting uncle just yet. She stalked into the room and dropped onto Chump's chair. facing the door. You kidnapped me and allowed my family to die. Before we discuss anything, you are going to tell me why that was necessary, and who is trying to kill me. Chump called down the steps.
Stand down, they are guests. Give them quarters and anything else they need. I am not to be disturbed.
He turned and entered the room, closing the door behind him.
I'm sorry, my girl. What did you say?
My parents. Why did they have to die?
I told you before, Glisser. You are the most important person on Mirrodin. We had to keep you safe. I am sorry your family was killed, but if you had been asleep when the lovers came, you would have died with them.
You mean you hoped to fool the assassin into thinking I was dead by letting my parents and sister get torn into pieces by those machines? Spat Glisser. Chump hesitated just long enough that the elf knew she was right.
We were merely trying to save you.
Liar! Chump walked over to the table. The light from the gel fruit illuminated the lovely skin of the old troll's face. His eyes glistened in the light, and Glisser thought she saw a tear roll down one cheek.
Glisser, he said, I am sorry about your family. I did what I had to do to save our world. The fate of all rests on you now.
Glisser shook her head. It was almost too much to take in. Why? What's so special about me?
You need to know everything now.
Yes, Glisser said slowly. I do? The troll sat across from her and poured them both a cup of water.
You are a nexus, Glisser, he said after taking a sip. A nexus of great power waiting to be unleashed.
What in the flare are you talking about?
Precisely, said Chump. Your flares, they have been unusual, haven't they?
How do you know about that?
It is one of the signs of your power, said the troll. Tell me about them.
Glisser shook her head angrily. No, I don't have time for this. Someone is trying to kill me.
This is important, said Chump. No one can hurt you here. Tell me about your flares, then I will explain what I can.
Glisser sighed. Fine, she said. Lately, they've all been the same scene. Each time. But I'd never seen this place before. I'm in a strange forest that's both soft and bright. There are no moons, but there is a large sun, a word I'd never heard until I left the tangle. My clothes are different. I'm different. My arms and legs are all fleshy.
How does it end? Asked Chump.
He seemed unsurprised by her description. Of course, he had no metal on his body either, so maybe it wasn't so strange to him. I'm drawn to a clearing. There is some strange energy glowing in the middle. Elves are all around me, walking towards the energy.
Then it flashes?
Yes, said Glisser. She stared at the old troll. How did you know? Trolls don't have flares.
Those are racial memories, Glisser, said Chump. You are connected to the elves and to the manner of the forest at a primal level. Your flares show you visions not of your own life, but of the life of your people, even of their life before the tangle.
Before the tangle? There was nothing before the tangle.
You know that is not true, don't you? You have seen the green forest, the bright yellow sun, and the vine-covered elves.
So you've had these visions as well?
No, said Chump. The memories I have of the time before the tangle are my own. I was there. I remember my forest. I remember the word of the trolls before the tangle.
Glisser was silent for a moment as she fought to absorb this. And the energy? The flash of white light? Do you remember that?
Yes, it was different for the trolls, but same as well.
Don't start talking in riddles again, old one, she scolded.
Speak clearly, or I'll swear I'll go live with the goblins. I do not know what the ball of energy was, or how it worked. It changed the world of the trolls. We exchanged our world for this world. This world, his world.
Gusser caught the swift change. His world. Gusser remembered something Slowbad had said about the golems. They were of a time before elves and goblins. She looked at Chumph. Do you mean Memnarch's world? Chumph stared back at Glisser, the cup of water halfway between the table and his mouth.
Where did you hear that name? Did it come to you in one of your flares?
No, said Glisser. She had finally wrested control of her conversation back from the troll and felt an odd sense of triumph at having done so. The golem said it when he saw this. She pulled the vial from her boot sheath and placed it on the table. Who or what is Memnarch? Is that who's trying to kill me? Whoever made this serum used it to make the Nim attack us. Chump dropped his cup on the floor and picked up the vial of serum.
I never should have let you go into the world alone. Listen, Clisser, you possess a power, a gift within you that some wish to use for their own ends. If you're not careful.
Yes, I know, interrupted Glisser. End of the world, death to us all. I heard the same thing from an old Leonin seer. I expect a more direct answer from you. Why save me from the Levelers if all I can bring to this world is death?
Death is not your gift.
I told you, you are a nexus of power. You must learn to harness that power before the convergence,
or it may well lead to the end of the world.
Then teach me, O wise one. Show me how to use my power, and I will save the world. That's what you want, isn't it?
It's not as easy as that.
An urgency in his voice made Gusser suspend her sarcasm and listen.
You may not know the right thing to do when the time comes. You don't understand.
Help me understand, said Gusser softly. Look, I know you sent me out here with this sword to try and save my family. I'm grateful for that. But I need some answers. Who is Memnarch? What is the serum? Who is trying to kill me? How do I stop all of this? Chump took a deep breath, settled down into the chair, and closed his eyes.
All right, no more riddles. I will tell you what I know. The person behind this must be a Vidalcan.
Vidalcan?
They dwell on the Quicksilver Sea past the Mephedros. The Vidalcan harvest the serum you have there. They crave power and are willing to do anything to gain it.
Even kill?
Oh, yes, replied Chump.
His thick lips curled in an unpleasant smile.
The Vidalcan have killed millions over the years, maybe more.
This vial of serum alone cost the lives of a score of blink moths. What are blink moths?
They are what you see at night. You imagine that they are stars above and the fireflies that roam the tangle. They are living creatures, lighting the sky with their serum-filled bodies, raining water down upon the lands. For hundreds of cycles the Vidalcan have harvested them.
Why?
The Vidalcan drink the serum to gain knowledge of the world, and knowledge of Memnarch, said Chump.
His eyes grew distant.
I, too, drank the serum once, long ago, when the Tree of Tales had but a few runes etched into its base. I learned of the blink moths and many other secrets of this world. It is an amazing liquid. It unlocks the knowledge of this world, its creation and its creator. A taste provides visions of the mysteries of the cosmos. A vial such as this can begin a journey forward unlocking those mysteries.
That sounds wonderful. Why not use the serum to help us live better lives? We could learn to control the Levelers, make it rain more often, begin to master this planet. Oh, I see.
Yes, said Chump. You see, where does it end? Even the most altruistic among us would eventually use the power for personal ends. That path inevitably leads to ruin. Power and greed together are always destructive, and the price for power is too high. The Vidalcan have murdered Blinkmoss by the millions to attain their current stature. Are these Vidalcan a tall, robed people with domes for heads? Chump nodded. They were not always as you see them now. Their race has evolved far beyond any others on Mirrodin. Because of the serum? Chump nodded again. But why did the Vidalcan want me dead? The elf persisted. If they have all this power, what do they want with me? That I do not know. They are playing at being gods. They have the knowledge of the ancients, but not the power to wield it. Perhaps they fear your power. Perhaps they wish to harness it. I do not know. Or perhaps they just want to stop me from destroying the world, said Grissa dryly. If Ashanti from the Leonin had the power, she would kill me. What of this Memnon? Is he the leader of the Vidalcan? Chump looked weary. His eyes were closed and he was rubbing his temples with his fists. Chump looked weary. His eyes were closed as he was rubbing his temples with his fists. Gussa wasn't sure he'd even heard her questions. Perhaps she should let the old troll rest and begin again later. At last, he spoke. For many hundreds of cycles now, I have tried to keep the elves and the trolls safe in the tangle. I kept knowledge from the Blinkmoths, a secret to prevent our races from falling victim to the allure of their power. I erased all mention of the old world from the histories, so the elves and trolls would not search for their past. But you need to know of Memnock. You need to know the truth. The metal door scraped across the floor behind Chump. The old troll turned. Gussa looked up. Another troll stood in the open doorway. It was not one of the guards. He wore the robes of an elder. Chump barked. I left instructions not to be disturbed. What is so urgent? The troll in the doorway did not speak. Instead, he lifted his metal-clad arm and turned his wrist over. Gussa could see something cupped in his fist. A blue orb that gleamed in the dim light of the gel fruit. What is that? What are you doing? She must die, responded the elder in a faint voice. He opened his fist and the orb flashed. A bolt of blue lightning streaked across the room. Gussa dived off his chair as Chump jumped to his feet in front of her. The lightning slammed into the old troll's chest, knocking him back into the table. He crashed to the floor, taking cups, tables, and gel fruit with him. The vial of serum flew from his hand. Gussa tried to move, but her foot was pinned beneath the broken table. She stared helplessly as the elder in the doorway held the orb out again, his palm facing Gussa. Nothing happened. He shook the orb, trying to make it work. His eyes strayed to the floor and widened when he saw the vial of serum. Gussa pulled frantically on her foot, but she could not free it. The elder smiled a toothy grin, scooped up the vial of serum, and turned and fled down the tunnel. Gussa looked from the empty doorway down at Chump, sprawled atop her leg. A huge hole penetrated his chest, and he was gasping for air. Gussa, I must tell you. Gussa lifted the old troll's fleshy head and cradled it in her arms. Don't speak, she said. I'll get help. With an agonizing jerk, she pulled her foot free. No time. You need to know. What is it? She could feel tears on her face. The world is not what it seems. It is. Oh. What? Oh. Hollow. Chump's eyes closed and his head sagged into Gussa's arms.